of the Hill of Justice. If anyone is out there, we'll give it a few minutes. If anyone's out there, please text us that they're able to see this well, or even be able to go ahead and put it into the chat. So I'll be monitoring the chat. Just as a disclaimer, with anything in life, this is a live portion, and thus we have um, where there may be a technical aspect that may put us down for a second or two, but we'll try to get that back up. So any technical difficulties we'll be able to assess and go through. So I'm just waiting for individuals. I'm going to get on the live stream and just let everybody know they can go ahead and all right. We got that. They can see us. All righty. That's what I like to see. This is what will pop up. Good folks. Good evening to everyone. And certainly, I definitely want to go ahead and congratulate and thank everyone who's actually supporting the channel and certainly liking, subscribing, and even commenting on our material. It really means a lot. So, without any further ado, um, let's go. Let's go at it. Clayton County was promised transformation, a visionary urban renewal initiative called Project Domino, a mixed-use high-rise project by Roman United at the site of a former shopping center. But what if that promise was just a smokescreen? Millions in taxpayer dollars, high-level political connections, and fast-track developments, all under the banner of revitalization. But residents are left asking, who is this really for? Behind the headlines, there are whispers of backroom deals, public land turned private, and a troubling lack of transparency. We will delve into the fallout, and we have just the guests to share their perspective, a master planner. I'm Jerome Hill. With me here is retired Sheriff Victor Hill, and this is the Hill of Justice Law. Brother, pretty interesting episode we got coming up tonight.
That it is. That it is. Let me say this before we get started. Like you said, we're live as technical difficulties. As you know, I'm out of state. Well, that you know, but I will need the public know I'm out of state and I'm actually doing a live from my phone. So if you see any interference like you did just now, just folks, no doubt from the conference giving me a call that I'm trying to push off. But other than that, there's a lot here, and we're honored to have Tanya Nance here. I spoke about this and introduced you as a developer, but let me uh, ask you to introduce yourself. Tell us what your background is and educate us, because you got to understand, even though I was a government official, my expertise was jails, crime, court security, manhunt, stuff like that. So I'm not an expert in development. And I think there's a difference between a developer and a master planner. Why don't you tell us about your background and tell us this difference so that everybody know who we're talking to before we get in this conversation?
Absolutely. First, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be able to talk through kind of the difference between a developer and a master planner, but really to talk about the true effects and the growth of Clayton County. But let's just talk about who I am and my background. So, my name is Tanya Nance. I have been in real estate and development probably since I was 20 years old. I've built in connection with some major builders through my life for about 10 to 15 years. I was going to be a real estate agent, but decided that there was so much emotion in real estate that I just could not do it. But I fell in love with dirt. And I have been inside of the development side the rest of the time. I started to work for DCT Industrial. Most of the Swanee Park that's built out in Gwinnett County, I helped to build out. I loved working for the industrial complex because there's just not a lot of emotion in it. Dirt is dirt, facts end up being facts. And so I love that. But the side that I have really grown to is in master planning. I believe that we all have a superpower, and not just because you're wearing like the Superman hat. Like, I really do believe that we're all born with a gift from God that really does just set apart what you do well. I am an amazing master planner. I can look at a piece of land and begin to develop what should go on it. how it will develop into something that would be strong for a developer to come back and build. I look at the facts, I do case studies, I look at feasibility, and then I draw out the plan that connects the dirt to the end user. And the end user is like the person that'll shop there or the person that'll eat there, right? And making sure that I understand the demographics, the psycho demographics, just the end user person, and then bring all that together so that when the developer comes, they're ready to build. And there's something to know here, just a little bit, is sometimes in areas like the area south of 20, where major developers do not like to come necessarily, you have to create the master plan first so that you can have the yes. If the answer is more prone to no, you have to take away all of the no's, right? You have to tell them this is the perfect opportunity. We've created it, we've entitled it, we've done all of the work. All you have to do is say yes. And so my job is to create the environment for the yes.
All right, good. There's a lot of bones I could ask about. Some I'm not going to ask about because it digress like the superhero thing. But let me. But you said some interesting things. You said that developers don't like coming south of 20. Tell us a little bit about why, because we need to know that so we can fix it.
I this begins to be more of a touchy conversation, right? But we're here to get that done. So let's just dig into it. There's a lot of development that happens in the north portion of Atlanta. And I grew up in Gwinnett County. I've lived all over Gwinnett. I grew up in Kentucky, sorry. The time that I've been in Atlanta has been in Gwinnett County. Until now, I've been living in South Fulton for a couple of months. And just the difference in the way that developers are. I joined the CCC, love the CCC. I think any business person that builds, develops real estate investing should always push towards that. It's a great organization. But in having conversations with some of the people that are there, and before that, one of the excuses used to be that the disposable income numbers were not great south of 20. So developers didn't want to build mixed use developments or large developments, or restaurants that you would see in the north don't necessarily come this way. And most of it, when a developer gets ready to come, they're looking at disposable income numbers. How much money is somebody going to spend? Right? Are they going to visit? Are they going to participate in the development? And so a lot of them use those non updated numbers to prove that our communities will not spend the money. And they also use some of that information to show that the demographics being different in the North will do it. Some of the things that have broken that pattern, though, we saw what happened in Fayetteville. Trillith broke that pattern and started to build down there, which showed that you can build south of 20, although that's quite a different distance away. And then we also know that there are some other major developments that are coming around Clayton County, but they are happening. But I think one of the things that we have to take into account is some of the politics that happen south of 20 are not favorable to what developers like to see. They like calm environments. They don't like a lot of drama, backfighting, backbiting. They don't like that because it says to them that at any point in time, whatever we've put together in a deal can be pulled back. And they spend so much money putting things together that it's dangerous to go into an environment that does not seem as steady. Now, not all areas of South Fulton, south of 20 are that way. And I mean the South Fulton region, not South Fulton City. But we have to just remember that developers and even master planners, whenever they start to go in, architects, large builders, they like calm. The backbiting just does not work. And the majority of what we begin to see is that.
Okay, very interesting. And I know we're gonna get into that, but let's set the stage so we can get a macro view of what the citizens need to know. And this is something that's not
Absolutely.
just for Clayton County because there's a lot of areas south of 20. I mean, it's no secret that I'm running for the 5th congressional district, and most of that, of course, is south of 20. So I'm interested in this not just for my beloved Clayton County, which will always be my home, but also for the whole 5th congressional district. And there's a lot you said that I want to get educated on and make sure that as many people are educated on that want to help to fix this problem along with me. But let's look at it this way. Let's start this way. One thing that everyone's talking about in Clayton County is the taxes. I believe the taxes up what 30 some percent now, which is high. And of course, we
Yeah.
know you were talking about disposable income. Out of the 10 metro counties, we know Clayton has the lowest disposable income, and Forsyth County has the highest disposable income. So everyone's feeling some type of way about the taxes in Clayton County, and rightfully so. Explain to us what's going on with that, from because what I want you to answer that as a subject matter expert. Uh, that's not actually elected, but a subject matter expert on those type of things. Go right ahead.
Yes, I think one of the things that we have to talk about is how you offset the tax. One of the things that we have to think about is when there's only one revenue of tax coming in, and you have a lot of revenue that's coming in for Clayton. Let's talk about the sales tax. They have a hotel tax. There are lots of taxes that are already benefiting how the county functions. So it's important to understand what happens there. So when looking at the tax base, for the school board, they increased in 2024 about 6.7%. That added about $112 a year. And when you look at the county maintenance and operations, that went up another 31.11. And that's through the rollback millage. The easiest way to explain this is the county needs money to be able to function and move to support sorry, I was reading the screen, to support the way that the government runs. You have to bring in money in order to do that. When you don't have another thing bringing in the taxes, when you don't have another tourism, when you don't have other areas that bring that in, that means that the residents eat that balance. So if you don't bring in additional, you have to get it from somewhere, and that begins to put a squeeze then on the residents that are living there.
Got it. So if you don't have other tax revenues, then it all comes on the back of the regular taxpayers and not from other sources. If we want to put it in
That's
layman's
correct.
terms. Okay.
That's correct. So let's think about it like this. So let's say that you build a warehouse and it is 50 acres. It's going to bring in about $4.9 million in taxable revenue. But that is not over and over again. The same thing with the gas station. It'll bring it, but it's very, very low. What you want to do is bring in additional dollars from outside of the county, and you want to start to generate inside of the county additional ways for those people to shop, to put heads in the bed, and to entertain. And so it's important to begin to balance out what that looks like and how you differentiate that tax base. And that's kind of what the conversation is, and how you begin to develop a county that needs additional tax dollars. You want to bring in additional outside base, and the quickest way to do that is through tourism.
Got it. So that kind of goes into the next question I have for you, because what I wanted to ask is how can development reduce taxes on the
Yep.
citizens? And I
Yeah.
think you
So
kind of
let's
answered
say
it, but go
I
deep
did.
for us.
Okay. So let's say that you build out, let's say that you build out a development. And let's say that it's a small development. Something that brings in taxes on the outside basis for sales. So we build a lounge, and this lounge is a one of a kind lounge. And when you come in, you can do your content creation, but you can also watch content creation. And so you now bring in people that are coming to one, do the content creation, and then people that are watching them do it live. Those people are eating. Those people are spending the night, and those content creators are also paying to be there. That's on a small, understandable level of what you bring in to diversify your tax base. But let's talk about a mixed use development that brings in what Project Domino is going to bring in, which is about 1 million people a year at year 5. That's 1 million people. Let's say they spend $20 a day on a small level. If you look at what that does for direct and indirect impact into the county, it diversifies the tax dollar, and it also brings other people with outside money into the county, and those people have to be serviced, so it increases jobs. So now we've increased jobs and we've increased tax base, which now reduces the need on residents. And now the people that live in Clayton County can have a reduced tax base. And that's what's the most important thing. We want to motivate and pour into the community at the same time. We want to make sure that we are creating a base to bring in additional dollars into the county.
All right, that sounds good. So I want to make sure that people understand what we're talking about. I'm starting to understand it, and some of these terms are coming to me. But for folks that the layman, I'm just a little street cop, so you got to break it down. What's a mixed use development? I think I understand it, but for a person that's not listening, let's make sure they understand what's a mixed use development that you're talking about here.
So we can talk about live, work, play because most people understand live, work, play. It is where you
That's
live, it's where you eat, it's where you play. So when you leave your house, there may be office there, you have restaurants, you have entertainment. And so because you have all of these things into an ecosystem, you're able to live there and do other things. And because there are more than two to three things, it's mixed. And so you develop a mixed use because you can do several uses inside of one development.
right. So a place that people might be familiar with that's here is like Avalon. You
Oh,
got
absolutely.
condos, you got apartments, you got homes, but you also got restaurants, movie theaters,
Hmm.
everything you can imagine, everything within a walking distance of all of that. So that's what you mean when you said
Yes.
mixed use development.
And you
Okay,
have
great.
office. Yeah, and then you're bringing in
Yes,
all
there's
of these
offices there
additional
too. Yes,
people to do it. And there's
absolutely.
one on 17th Street that is very popular, and my brain is completely dead. Sorry, but that is also a mixed use development.
Got it. Got it. So when we talk, okay, so there's a difference. So you, I want you to tell us about Project Domino. But I also want you to tell us the difference between Project Domino and Roman United. Roman United was a big scandal in Clayton County that's still not resolved. We know it was a scam, and and recently I was just told that Georgia, or Atlanta rather, is a high area for scam artists. And
Mm,
unfortunately, it appears to be that a lot of these scams are in government and by government officials. But of course, we know there's all type of other scams going on out there as well. But Roman United was a scam that was on the news. Unfortunately, at least the local law enforcement in Clayton County has done nothing about it, even though we know who the players were in that scam. But what's the difference between? Tell us about Project Domino, but the difference between that and Roman United, and the difference between how Project Domino would be funded as opposed to how Roman United would be funded, and educate us on that.
absolutely. So first, I want to say that UPH and Lytics, all of the catalyst companies, do not have any association with Roman United. And I'm not a official person for Roman United, so I'm not speaking on behalf of that company in any capacity. But Roman United was a project that was supposed to come to Clayton County. They did get money from the county in order to build out. I'm assuming that it was for pre-development costs to build out the plans to continue the feasibility studies, that kind of thing. And the development did not move forward. When we brought in Project Domino to follow that project, we had to make sure that we dotted every I and crossed every T. This is where the importance of master development comes in, right? Because for my job, I had to do two things that were very, very important. Number one, we had to reduce asking the county for a single penny. When we built out the plan for Project Domino, we did not ask Clayton County for a single penny. And I want to be clear about that repeatedly because there is some misinformation out there about what we were trying to get. And so we never ever asked for a penny. Our project was going to be funded through private investment. There were a lot of investors that were interested in the sports tourism model, which is going to be by 2030 $1 trillion divider, brings in about $1 trillion in all of the streams of sports. And so we attached the sports model to our development. Um, we started to look at what was the best thing to regenerate a county. We talked about that before. We talked about what it was going to be in sports. And so we started to work with the COO of the county to make sure that we were really drilling down to make sure that it was right. Clayton County was going to build and will still build out, we pray, the parks. And our job was to build the ancillary around the parks. That means the hotels, the restaurants, entertainment, auditoriums, arenas, that kind of stuff. So Project Domino is a $1.2 billion development that will be coming to Clayton County. It produces about 3,000 jobs that will be there by year five, over a million people coming into Clayton County by year five. And it is all predicated around sports. And so there's a participant based sports model that was created by Rob Hanna and Game Changer Nation, and they did the feasibility report behind it. And so we have seven sports that we focus on, from youth to professional sports. And because it's a participation model, it is not where you build an arena and then you have a team come in and like what's an Atlanta team that wins all the time? That's a joke
The
because
Braves.
most of them don't win. The Braves do win. Okay. So like the place where the Braves participate in, they built it and so people come in to watch the Braves. Ours is more of a participant base. So let's talk about AAU teams, little league baseball teams. Those teams come in to compete, and then we build the ancillary around for those teams to come in. So lots of baseball fields. We've got soccer, we've got cricket, we've got pickleball, tennis, basketball, volleyball, and we bring all of those sports in so that we can make sure that we can bring the participant base on. Now, there are already tourism going around inside of that model. So we just want to make sure that we can provide the ancillary, not just for the participant, but for also the parents that are coming in. Because do either of your children play sports? Either of them, or gymnastics or
You talk
anything
about
like
me?
that? Yes.
As far as I know, I have no children. I'm sure if I did, I would have been notified and caused to have to make sure I pay for it.
I would
Right.
hope
But
so.
now
What
my
about
brother,
nieces or
I live
nephews?
vicariously through my brother. He has obeyed the book of Genesis, and he's been fruitful and he's multiplied. So I got more than enough nieces and nephews. Yeah.
So if one of your nieces or nephews played, let's say, basketball, and they are on some of the traveling teams, then they're going to travel to different places to play. And so what we have created is a model for them to come and play. We've combined that with data and analytics, where a typical player would be able to see how well they play, how fast they run, how high they jump through our wearables. They'd be able to get that data and analytics from the development. But one of the things that we've created that is so very special through our master planning is what the parent does while the child is playing, and what some of those secondary children do while the parent is there with their child, because we're dragging our children alone. Some of them don't play sports, right? They may be more into chess or robotics, but when their brother plays, they go. And so what we've done is created a development that speaks to the parent, the child, as well as the aunties, the cousins, the grandma, and everybody else that's visiting.
Sounds brilliant. What part of Clayton County was Project Domino supposed to go up at?
We're going to say undisclosed.
Okay. Okay.
And we
Okay.
only say undisclosed because we are still working through the development that's coming, and we have to still go through and purchase the rest of the land. And so um, we are just not going to speak about the location, but it is
Okay.
in
Okay, no problem.
prominent.
But there's a lot of places in Clayton that I could see a place like that going and prospering. I was just curious. So let's skip that. Okay. So sounds brilliant. I'm not a master planner. I'm not a developer, but it makes sense. It sounds like good common sense. What went wrong? What happened? Why isn't everybody on board singing Kumbaya, and why is it just going up? What's the backstory?
I believe that politics truly got in the way. Um, I know that the county officials that we were working with really, really did their job to make sure that the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed. But I believe that politics got extremely personal. And some of the things that happened inside of the process were uh, not as great. And I'd like to just, number one, talk about some of those things, talk about some of the
Tell us the
misinformation.
story, and don't pull any punches. You know I'm not.
Got it. Got it.
Okay. So
All
what
right.
happened?
After we had a closed door meeting in executive session, and after executive session was over, we were asked to come back and have another conversation. So we're going to frame this up that this happened on a Friday. Okay. Once we left the meeting and had the
Okay, okay, hold
conversation,
one second. Hold one second. You know,
go.
I'm an ex cop. You know, we do who, what, when, how, and where. Okay, okay.
Yes,
Who's we and who asked you to have the meeting?
got it.
Unless, yeah, show no fear.
Okay.
You know,
All
we
right.
call out names. We call them out on the show. No fear.
Got it.
Okay.
So, um, so we went to an executive meeting, was a board meeting in April, at the end of April. We were invited into executive session with the COO of the county, Landry Murkison, who was an amazing person. He had been working through the project to make sure that we were real, the development was real, our investors were real, the people that were coming in were real. Once that was over inside of executive session with all of the board members, we presented Project Domino for the first time. During that conversation, there were two questions that were asked about the development, and then we were released. After
Okay.
that,
Who asked the questions? Who asked the questions, and who's we?
so when I say we, it is the people that belong to UPH. The board was there, so it would have been Nicole Ambrose, John DeLego
Okay.
was there, Q Barrows was there. He was a part of our sports side. One of our investors, leaders, was there. And so we presented the project, and there were two questions. One question was by, I believe, Tasha Allen, and I cannot remember the person that asked the second question.
And Tasha Allen is
But
a Clayton County commissioner.
she is
Yeah, I
a
mean,
Clayton
I want to
County
make sure we know
commissioner.
that because we got to assume that
Correct.
people who are watching don't know you, don't know me, don't know her. So we're talking about the Clayton County Board of Commissioners, and you're talking about Commissioner Tasha Allen. She's a Clayton County commissioner, and she's also married to the current sheriff.
That is correct.
Okay, keep
That is
going.
correct. So the one question was asked why we were continuing to push in Clayton County. And my answer was because it was in support of the county growth and because I believe in everything that Dr. Anderson is doing to turn the county around.
Okay, so let's
We
stop
have
right
been,
now. We can't assume people
got
know
it.
who Dr. Anderson is. Dr. Anderson is a doctor, I believe a doctor of education or something like that, but she's also the chair of the Clayton County Board of Commissioners. And for those who aren't familiar, the county commission is like city council on a county level. So instead of calling them city council, we call them commissioners, and instead of calling a person the mayor, they're called the chairman. So she acts in the capacity as the chair of the board, which is the capacity as the chair of the county. Okay, keep going.
Correct. After, so we dismissed the meeting. After the meeting was over, my personal information was pulled. And when I say personal information, it meant my criminal background was illegally pulled. We cannot go into who pulled that information because that is now under investigation. But what happened outside of that happening, and let's just digress a little bit more. In 2020, excuse me, right before the start of COVID, both of my children had a tiny home business. That tiny home business made it through COVID and a little bit through inflation before the business closed. We did not make it through inflation. We purchased a warehouse, and the warehouse was in the wrong district, and so we lost about $300,000 in orders there. We lost about $60,000 inside of putting money into the building. And so when the business closed, there definitely was a lot of fallout from it. We ended up losing our house, and I ended up moving to Kentucky to be with my mom. This was a overly emotional time for me and my children as they were looking to me for support and answers, and I didn't have any because I was still trying to figure out how it happened. Once I got to Kentucky, I had been there for a couple of months, and there was a court date, excuse me, that I missed. In excuse me, in missing that court date, that meant that I had a failure to appear. Okay, and so with that failure to appear, that meant that there was a warrant for my arrest. So I just want everybody to be clear on the warrant for the arrest and the failure to appear and how all of this mixed with someone pulling my background. So once one of the commissioners, in which we don't know which one it is, pulled my background, she then saw this information and they scheduled, she or he scheduled for the secondary meeting, and that secondary meeting
Okay,
was set
stop
up
one
for
second.
the.
Who scheduled the
Okay,
meeting?
go.
Who scheduled the meeting?
It was a, I don't know who specifically scheduled the meeting. I just know that the COO told me that the board had scheduled the meeting and that they had some additional questions about the development. And so we had
Were all of the commissioners present at this meeting?
everyone except for Dr. Anderson was at the
Okay.
meeting.
So there's five commissioners, all four were there.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And the COO. And there
Right, right.
may have been some other people there, but I don't necessarily remember.
And let
So
me correct myself. There's five commissioners, meaning one is the chair, which is equivalent of mayor, and then there's four others. So all four were there. Just the chair wasn't there.
correct. That is
Okay.
absolutely correct.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
so once I got to the meeting, there were again only two questions. One a question was from Miss Allen was, "Have you ever done anything like this before?" Which I explained that I had master planned something this big before, but that our team was the overall focus. And the second question was from another commissioner just asking to go through the development. And so we took time and went through that development. When we left that meeting, there was a sheriff waiting outside. We didn't pay attention to it. I just thought that they were there. And then we were pulled over probably about 3 minutes down from there. And I was asked to get out of the car and I was arrested and then taken to Gwinnett County Jail.
All right. So let's make sure we cover some details. You talked about what the warrant was about. So this was a civil warrant, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
right. It was a civil warrant. It wasn't armed robbery. It wasn't murder. It wasn't theft or anything like that, correct?
No, no.
Okay,
It was
so
civil. It's
it was
civil.
civil. Okay, and then it's been resolved. How was it resolved? Once you were arrested, how was it resolved?
I had $140 fine. I stayed there for about 18 hours. And so I paid the $140 fine and then signed a piece of paper. And then I was released.
Okay, so it's not a felony warrant. This has nothing to do with you being a scamster or whatever. It's a failure to appear over a fine, and because had you paid the fine, the warrant wouldn't exist. Correct?
Had I went to court and signed the paper, the piece of paper concerning assets was what the contempt was for because I did not present to sign the asset paper. And then the failure to appear was because I missed the court date. And
Right.
so once I signed the paper for assets, and then once I signed uh, the paper saying that I will attend court, then uh, I was able to be released. But it was 18 hours, 140, and a piece of paper.
And that
Nonsense.
was it. So you're not a fugitive from justice. You're
I am
not.
not a fugitive from
Right.
justice.
You're not a part of some major scam organization and they made a huge
No,
arrest and there was nothing like that. The car you was
no.
in, whose car was that?
It was my friend Nicole Ambrose's car.
Okay, so it's not like this deputy, you went past a tag reader and it came back that Tanya Nancy
No,
wanted because you're not connected to that car. So
no,
that means, and of course, I got another ex cop on there shaking his head. That meant somebody took
Targeted.
your name and ran
Mm-hmm.
it through, which we call in Georgia GCIC, and which national is NCIC,
Mm-hmm.
to see that they ran a criminal background on you and it came back wanted. Now, let me just say this for the audience as a former enforcement officer. You can't run people's name unless they're under investigation, and you have to have a case number to run somebody's name. So the sheriff's deputies that stopped you, were they Gwinnett County deputies?
no,
They were
no.
Clayton
They
County
were Clayton
Sheriff's
County.
Office deputies, correct? All right.
That's
And
correct.
we do have a commissioner that's married to the sheriff. So,
Here's my question: was there the pretext for the stop? Were you given any traffic fines for that stop?
Now that I do not know because it was someone else's car,
Mhm.
and they said that they pulled her over because of her tent, the tent on her windows,
Mhm.
and then so I was gone, so I don't know whether she got a ticket or not. Um, I was put into the Clayton County car, and by the grace of God, I did not go to Clayton County. They just completely took me to Gwinnett, which is how I was able to get out so quickly.
And you probably right about that because there's a lot of people that are getting stabbed and everything else. But let me ask you this. Okay, you're a passenger in the car, not the driver, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Oh,
So did they run everybody's name in the car?
N-
that's
no,
weird because I
I
Okay,
don't
don't
even
think
so
know.
so.
I
okay,
think
so
And
right. So
Victor knows
so
exactly what I'm going with this. Yeah.
exactly right.
Right.
Okay, so it's not, a lot of things in detective work, because this doesn't really require Sherlock Holmes here
Mhm.
to figure this one out. Somebody ran your name, and somebody knew that you had this, and that's probably why you were called down there. And then they just happened because when we stop a car, especially for tinted windows, all we do is give the person a ticket. We don't run everybody's name in a car unless we have reason to believe that car is connected to a crime or something like that.
Correct.
So it's probably safe to assume that the commissioner who's married to the sheriff used her connection with him in order to run your name and then get you arrested. Now, don't get me wrong, a warrant is a warrant is a warrant. But
correct.
remember, but there's a thing called fruits of the poisonous tree and how you got where you got. You can find something on a person. If what you did was illegal to get that, then that becomes a fruit of the poisonous tree. A warrant, that woman's going to have to be taken care of one day anyway at some point.
Mhm.
But it's how we got here
Correct.
is where this is a form of lawfare. This is a form of corruption. And I would tell you that that might be something you might want to make a complaint to the authorities about so they can investigate it, because it'd be interesting to see who ran your name and who gave the order to run your name, because now we're talking about using the criminal justice system to lawfare is using the criminal justice system to target somebody because a good example is you can't beat them at the polls, so you want them out so someone else can get in. We all know that story.
Mm, mm.
Okay. Or there's some type of business person or whatever you want to remove as competition, so you find a way to do it. And it sounds like that's what we got going on here.
Yeah.
And I can't
Complete
speak
setup.
to 100% who did it, right? Or how they did it. I just know that the effects of what happened started to speak to the misinformation of the project. It took the attention off of moving the project forward, and it added attention to me. And it was definitely what I feel like created issues with how I live and how I'm able to continue to bring in income for my house and for my family. And so it has been truly a overly hard process these last couple of months to continue to push through for the project that we are bringing to the county, and to continue to differentiate the misinformation that's being said about you at the same time. What I do know, though, for sure, 100% for sure, is that we all go through things in being able to present what we're supposed to do in life. My purpose completely is to make sure that this development comes to Clayton because it's time. Clayton has the one of one, the one airport in the world, the first and the busiest airport in the world. It is important that we focus on the true fruits of Clayton County and not get so distracted by all of the things that are happening here. This is the kind of stuff that keeps developers from coming. And it is my goal, one, to shine the light on it, but two, just to make sure that the residents start to see what they deserve, so that we can start to push additional growth to the county. There are some truly amazing people that work inside of Clayton County. There are some amazing commissioners that are working inside of Clayton County trying to get the work done. We have been able to get support on the state level, on the regional level. We're now speaking to a master developer that's going to come in and run the development, because I personally was never going to be the master developer. My job was to build the environment, to attract the team, to get everybody excited about it, and then to pass the baton. And so those things are continuing to happen, even though all of this happened at the same time.
All right, but let's get back to this 1 second. And you're
Yes.
saying all the right things, and you're going high when people go low, and that's a beautiful thing. But so let me be the bad guy. Don't we have an exhibit? Isn't there something that was on the commissioner's page after this happened that we need to show? And I appreciate the fact that you're saying, well, I can't say it's this person, I can't say it's that person, but this was on a commissioner's page. Ironically, Commissioner Allen, the person that's married to the sheriff. Unfortunately, I'm
That's
doing
correct.
this live on my phone, so I it's in small print. Jerome, can you read that so the audience can hear what it says and who posted it and who said it?
So yes, it is from Commissioner Tasha Allen, Roman United 2.0 with a question mark and with an emoji with a question. Um, shall we talk about the Clayton County was about to do business with a woman who was allegedly running a Ponzi scheme in Gwinnett County. The project had been in motion for months before I was even elected. Yet no one, not the deputy chief operating officer, not the chief operating officer, I guess they were saying it twice, had vetted the business or its owner. The deputy chief operating officer, acting under the direction of the chair, was holding these meetings and advancing the deal while excluding key personnel, including those whose actual job is economic development. The very people paid to protect the county from bad deals were left out of the room. After learning about the deal, I conducted my own due diligence, and that's when the truth came to light. I immediately brought my findings to the county attorney and the full board. And the outcome, and it goes on, the deputy chief operating officer received only a verbal reprimand or something to that effect. So that's
Does
it
it
there.
does it go on to say anything about an arrest?
No, it does not.
No,
It does
no,
not.
it does
No.
not.
Okay. Okay.
So that's
Okay.
what that looks on that end. And Tanya, I want you to go ahead and give your thoughts about the matter.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that we've already talked about is the difference between Roman United and Project Domino. I think some of the things that we need to be clear of are how disinformation starts and how it begins to breed when these kind of things are put out. When you say how behind the scenes this project had been in motion for months and nobody knew about it, it was because we wanted to make sure that the feasibility, the case studies, everything that is the dotted I and the cross T was done before any of this was even presented. We don't believe in presenting things that are not already baked and done. And we already knew that we were going to have all of our facts together before we presented because of what had happened with Roman United. So I believe that the due diligence that was done on behalf of the COO, on behalf of the chair, making sure that it was real, that the opportunities were real, helped us to be ready to present to the board. If not, you've created a half baked environment, which brings in opportunity for things to not be true and real. That have not been gone through the due diligence process, and we want to make sure that that's done. So that's the first problem that's inside of it. And secondly, I am trying to understand where the Ponzi scheme come in at.
Yeah,
We
I want to
made
know
kind of
about that
jokes
too.
because
Okay.
I
Okay.
that
So
just
let so
completely just over my head.
okay. So let me ask you a question. Do you have
Yeah.
any history being in Ponzi schemes? Have you ever been arrested for a Ponzi scheme?
No, no.
Okay.
The worst
Okay.
thing that
But
I
we do
can say
know
that
Roman United
happened
was a
was
Ponzi scheme, and no one's been arrested for that yet. And we do know the former chairman Jeff Turner was involved in that, and no one's done an investigation and arrest him yet. But have you been? Is there any documented Ponzi scheme that you've been involved in?
no, no Ponzi scheme, just a lost family business with a rollout that was not beneficial for us, for the people that were involved, and we are doing what we can do to make that right outside of going through the things that we have to go through as a small business to get wrapped up and closed. But outside of a failing business, absolutely not, none, none.
Okay. And let me make sure. I want to make sure this is straight. Roman United was asking for county funds. Is
Correct.
project is in which they got a half a million just for a PowerPoint presentation that
Mm.
went to some accountant to buy. Okay. Does Project Domino? did that require any funding from the county? Were y'all asking for
None,
money from Clayton County?
none,
Have y'all received any money from Clayton County?
no,
Okay.
none. No private back office deals. No, somebody was going to get paid if they pushed the project forward. None of those things.
Right. Very interesting. So is this
Just
when
a
you
very
say,
boring deal.
right? So when you say developers uh, are reluctant to come south of 20 because of political shenanigans, is this what you were talking about? Is this, would you say, a good example?
This is a great example. I think one of the things that we have had to deal with inside of the fallout from what happened and us getting back on track to get this development done is the developers, the co-developers, and the developers seeing this kind of thing and not feeling confident about moving into Clayton. So some of the things that we are doing on this particular podcast is to get the misinformation out so that people understand what it is, but to also help the developers understand that Clayton is a great place to do business. It is a great place for this type of development, and this development will happen. It is to help them to understand that we have to get past the shenanigans and we have to get past all of these political games so that the residents of the county thrive. It's beyond time. Development around Clayton is happening. Henry County is doing 7,000 homes. They're getting mixed use developments. You've got things that are happening in other places, but we are stopping inside of the place that is the, let's just talk about the one of one. The busiest airport in the world sits inside of Clayton County, right? So there is absolutely no reason why it
None.
should not be flourishing.
Right.
It's time for the county to flourish. It just is. And one of the things that we talked about in great detail with our team and some of the investors that were looking at coming in is the fact that uh, where else is there to grow? We understand that if you go up north, Gwinnett is almost out of room. They're starting to build towards the 316 corridor. It's an amazing development, by the way, but it is starting to build towards that corridor going up towards Athens. We're moving into other counties now because we're out of places to build. Why not south of 20? Perfect environment. There's land in South Fulton that's available. Union City is an amazing city. You've got Palmetto. You've got things that are happening in Clayton. It's time. We just have to get out of the way of the politics. We need to master plan more to get developers to come, and then we need to build.
Well, I'm gonna tell you this, and I'm not gonna hold my tongue on it. This is very amazing to me because we're talking about Ponzi scams or whatever. And
Yeah,
I've seen some of the latest commission meetings. I've seen stuff come up about audits. I've seen things come up about overtime. Um, that I saw a presentation. That's a Ponzi scheme. If you're giving people who only make 60 grand and they're making 150 or whatever, that's a Ponzi scam. I've seen things with the commissioner we're talking about accounts that's not being turned over to the commission and her asking questions like, well, does he have to hand over the account, talking about her husband, and what happens if he doesn't hand over the account? So it's very interesting to me that a commissioner who her husband is being audited for Ponzi scams, and she's trying to run interference by saying what happens if he doesn't turn over the accounts, is talking about you being in a Ponzi scam. So I just want to make sure we make one thing clear, because one thing, my brother and I, well, I wouldn't say my brother, but me, I have a dislike for media that puts out unconfirmed facts or whatever. And I'm going to ask
hmm,
one more time. We know you had a failure to appear contempt that is $148 and it's resolved. I just want to make sure we clear one more time. Ha-
okay.
Have you ever been involved in a Ponzi scam, or is there any documented stuff like what we got going on now when you see these commission audits talking about a Ponzi scam within government? Have you been involved in any Ponzi scams like what's being accused of her and her husband?
Absolutely not. And if I'm the worst Ponzi scam person that's ever been created, if there was, there's nothing there. There's been a lot of wow, there's been a lot of loss inside of this whole process, right? We lost a lot. I believe that the UPH and pushing through this project for Clayton was going to be our ability to get back what we had lost. I believe that we are going to get it back because I believe that that's just the way that my God functions. I believe that with all my heart. I think that keeping our minds focused on what's important has been one of the things that has helped to push this whole thing through. But I think we at this point all have to go straight to where the misinformation sits. The people that are attacking you, we need to do that face on to make sure that what's put out doesn't distract from what needs to be done. And that is my only reason for coming on this show. I want to make sure, one, that my name is generated in the right place. I've worked very, very hard to make sure that my name is associated in rooms that mean progress and moving forward. And I wanted to make sure that I cleared up any misinformation about the hard work that my team has done, the hard work that Game Changer Nation done on the feasibility side, the hard work that Mr. Landry Murkison had done to make sure that this project was real, and the hard work that we have all been pushing towards just to benefit Clayton County and to make sure that the South of 20 region begins to grow the way that it should.
All right, you've answered all my questions. It's been very informative.
Thank
I'm
you.
glad you're being given, and well, that's what this was all designed for anyway, to give people, there's a lot of stories the media cover, and there's a lot of stories the media don't cover. And I won't get into that. There's some interesting things that questions have been asking me of something I put out recently, and they're absolutely right. The media never did a story on it, and they would like me to see if I can put out some facts on it, since the media never covered it whatsoever, and some video footage that was sent to me. And I see a situation like this being the case. The media never covered it. This is noteworthy. And so we wanted to have a forum where not only we put out what the media doesn't cover, or the media is not accurate in covering, but also give people a chance to tell their side of the story, which you got a chance. I think for me, you've answered the who, what, where, when, and why. Jerome, do you have anything you want to ask her, or do you feel we've adequately covered this situation?
I think to wrap it up, I do have one question. As we know,
Yeah.
Clayton County is besieged and worried about safety and the crime rates there. What can a project like this actually help out? What can it do?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that you have to talk about or think about, and I can't speak on this deeply, Mr. Hill, because that this is your area of expertise. But for us, we understand that the majority of the time when crime is committed, it's out of desperation. We know that if we create better playing jobs, job training, entry level, and advancement inside of jobs, that the crime rate goes down, right? It's always been that way in some of the developments that we have done. So with Project Domino, there are a lot of community benefits inside of it. There is job training for not just the hospitality side, but in the sports side that's there. There is, of course, sports broadcasting. There's officials that are inside of that environment, but also we have sports medicine. We've got data and analytics. So now you've got AI that's being driven inside of this development. You've got data that's being driven in this environment. And so we're creating jobs that get people in, and we create growth patterns for those jobs. And that takes away the disparity in trying to make sure that your family can eat, right? It creates another environment of positivity. And I think that when you're exposed to better, you do better. I believe that with all of my heart, right? And so developments that begin to grow a community so that you feel bad about littering and you want to do better about throwing stuff down on the ground, and you want to do better because it looks better and it feels better and it introducing something different. So I think that that is one of the ways that you begin to reduce the crime.
And lastly, as we wrap this
Yeah.
up, what do you want the people to take away from today's conversation that you feel as though it would be necessary for them to know?
Absolutely. Number one, I believe that, as I said before, we all have a purpose. Every single person born on earth has something that they're supposed to do. I think that we all need to get about the business of doing what we're supposed to be doing. Inside of that, giving and teaching and growing, but calling out wrong when it's wrong. Looking at the reason behind why people do things and looking at that first before you pass on, excuse me, the misinformation, before you pass on the rumors, right? Before you pass on that, that's very, very important. And then one of the other things that I think that I would like to say is that we all have a village around us that supports us. I have a very, very strong village. I've been fortunate enough to be a member of Berean Church. Pastor Lee and Pastor Kevin have been overly beneficial in helping me not go low when I want to go low, right?
Mm.
And then finally, just looking at what development is going to do for the South of 20 region, starting to let the residents know that you guys have the right to push for development. You have the right to know when developments are coming. You have the right to be able to go to a nice restaurant, to be able to shop without, driving 20 and 30 and 40 minutes. You deserve that. And knowing that you deserve it will help you push to go get it. It is time for Clayton's growth. I want to be a part and will be a part of that growth. And we are excited about what Project Domino is going to do for the region.
Yeah, yeah.
Well
Thank
said.
you. That's all the questions I had, brother.
Yeah, Jerome, I just want to say this in conclusion. Especially to the citizens of Clayton County, since this affects it, but this is educational for anyone watching and anyone watching the government. When I was sheriff, I was very strict about what I call the notification policy, because there are a lot of people who work for you that won't tell you something, and there are a lot of people in charge that they believe looking out for their people. They say you're supposed to look out for the people who work for you. Well, I do agree with that. I do agree that if people work for you or they're in government, we should look out for one another. If they can't pay for a funeral, let's take up a collection. If they got problems getting to work, but looking out for your people doesn't mean covering up wrong.
This is
And that's where we got to make sure that we come. It's like, well, hey, don't say this or whatever. If the truth is the truth, it's the truth. So if we got government officials that's misappropriating funds, fraudulent overtime, covering up for kids that covering up kids being molested because their friends are the ones molesting the kids, that's not looking out for your people. That's covering up wrong. And when we have situations like what happened with Miss Nance, where NCIC, GCIC, NCIC, whatever we want to call it, is being inquired because somebody is mad at somebody and they want a project not to go through because it's not somebody they like. That's the weaponization of the criminal justice system. And for Clayton County to go forward, I think what Miss Nance is trying to say in a nice way, let me say it in a mean way. We're going to have to check these officials that are misusing money and misusing their power to do stuff like what's being done now. Weaponizing it. And it's not just weaponizing it in a situation which we know is well known with my situation, which I wrote a book on. But this proves that it doesn't just happen to politicians. It's not just them doing stuff like this to stop an election. Here's a person not running for office, just trying to do development, and we see what happened to her. It may be on a lower level; it's just $148 fine and an inconvenience of going to jail. It may not be on a high scale like what's happened to me and others in the county, but this is the type of stuff when we got people in office, and they have to be exposed. And it has to be the public needs to notify what type of leaders we got and what they're doing. That's the only way Clayton County is going to go forward. I'm not a preacher, but that the scripture comes to mind that the people perish when there's no vision. And when you see leaders like this, and a vision comes before them, the only thing they can do is let's see who we can get locked up, and let's call them a member of a Ponzi scheme. We see what that scripture means in real life in modern times. So I love Clayton County, always will. Clayton County is responsible for who I am today, and will always have a special part in my heart. I will be serving the entire fifth and congressional district, but of course, you're serving the entire country because the decisions you make affect not just your district but everybody else. So I don't want anybody to think that I'm going to treat any other part of the district any different than I treat Clayton County. But because I'm gonna treat Clayton County so well because that's my home, I think everybody in the other districts know how well I'm gonna treat them.
All right.
great.
Yeah, that'll be it for the live portion of the Hill of Justice. Tanya, amazing interview. Amazing,
Thank you.
amazing
Absolutely.
information.
Thank you.
We've gotten a lot of people who have participated in our chat, and They were very impressed. And thank you once again for coming on the show and giving us that insight.
Thank you for having
Hey,
me.
and
I
don't
really
give up on
appreciate it.
Clayton County. The people there, I'm
Absolutely
sure
not.
they're impressed. I'm impressed, and we need more people like you. So please don't let the politics and that type of craziness deter you from continuing with this project. 'Cause I think this project would be great for the county.
Okay.
Absolutely. We're going to get it done. Thank you so much.
You're very
Outstanding.
welcome. Subscribe, like, comment, and if you like more of it, please watch our other episodes. And we will be back next week. Please take a look at some of the videos that we dropped yesterday. It was very informative. So until then, we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.